that politics will not be spared from that. And so it was about 2.5 years in, God gave me this word. Please listen, because America, you suffer from a lot of things. You suffer from a very resistant strain of defiance that indeed cannot be healed. The resistance that is inside America can never be healed. And this is why the Lord does not bother sending me with general revival prophecies or America's going to come back from these prophecies. But the word that I have been given, the word that is put in my mouth, is simply woe, lamentations, and distress. That is all God has given me to say to the United States, and that is all I will say to the United States. Suffer from blindness, cognitive dissonance, a lot of pride to reject the Lord's messages. And so no one should be surprised when the Lord's messages sound the way they sound. American nation, land of the blind and home of the deaf, your leadership is about to be interrupted. I see a short dagger come from the hand of conspirators, and the American leadership is cut short before its time. I see people fighting each other because of this. American brothers turn against one another because of this event. War will come to this country as a direct consequence of this brutal act. It may not happen immediately, but just as we are taught that the cause of World War I was the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, when he was killed, it triggered a chain reaction that eventually set the whole world on fire. So also, the consequences flowing from this interruption in term have its own repercussions. Let the reader be wise and beware. Change is on the horizon. So you can tell immediately if you hear Archduke Ferdinand mentioned that we are in the territory of assassination. God is saying to America, the home of the blind and the land of the deaf, people who see and yet they do not see, people who can stare right at events taking place right in front of them, words being repeated back to them, not only by the few messengers that God has sent into them, but then the words are confirmed later by their own news media, and yet the people will see these two similar things and say, but they're not similar at all. We don't see where they match. God is saying that to America, that is the land of blind people and the home of deaf people, which means if you're blind and if you're deaf, you're actually being cut off from the two major senses that you need to be able to perceive rightly what is happening around you. So first thing, God is saying, America, you see nothing, but you very much claim that you see. America, you can't hear, but you very much insist that you can hear. And he was saying that your leadership will be interrupted. And what I said I saw is that I saw a short dagger. Now, there's these ancient daggers that they would always use in the old days when you're assassinating people, the old days before guns. You didn't really have a lot of options. You had to get up close to kill people. So one of the favorite ways of killing people was by this ring. They would have this ring and they would put poison in it. The upmarket people, I guess, those who like to do it classy, they would do it with poison. They would have this ring and they would tip it into the drink of the person. But you can understand that to tip poison into somebody's drink, you guys actually need to be close together having a drink. Next best option is that you would poison the drink immediately before the drink was taken to someone. And so that was one of the ways that they did it. But another way that they did it is very clear in what happened to Julius Caesar. They got Julius Caesar to come to the Capitol on a pretext, saying that they wanted to speak to him, Brutus and Cassius and the rest of them, the rest of the senators. They wanted to speak to him about this and about that. And he came for some strange reason without armed guards. So as I'm just giving you this light backdrop that I haven't gone and had to study up on anything, I want you to understand that at the moment when God has determined for a person to be destroyed, you will make the most nonsensical decisions and choices. Julius Caesar was a man who knew that he had enemies. So he never went anywhere without protection. But for some reason, when he was called to this so-called council to come to the Capitol, he went without even a single friend. He went without a single bodyguard. He went without a single +1 to what we now know turned out to be his death. And so at the time that God has determined that your hour has come and that your moment has come, someone who, for instance, of a normal trajectory, of their normal standard, of their normal, this is how he does things, this is how she does things, that person will begin to act contrary to what, looking back, we would think is wise. At the moment the person is doing it, nobody's going to be able to perceive anything. Even the person themselves will think, well, this is different. I'll go without my bodyguards. They smother me. They're smothering me. So they've been protecting you all this time. But then of the day of your death, you will come up with this wisdom, quote fingers, that they're smothering me. And then you go into your destruction. And so this picture of the short dagger is very much a part of old history, because without guns, you would literally have to come up close to a person to kill them. And most of the bolder assassins came right up on a king, for instance, in his bed to plunge a dagger into his heart. Sometimes they would fall upon the king from the back, as what happened to King Sennacherib in the Bible. It was his own sons who fell upon him when he was kneeling down to his God in the temple, and they killed their father. And so when God is showing the picture here and saying, I see a short dagger coming from the hand of the conspirators, then what the Lord was showing me all the way back in June of 2019, please excuse the noise, I'm not going to stop. He was showing that there is actually an assembly of conspirators within the land of America. So as God has already said that the nation is blind and the nation is deaf, this definitely means that a lot of people do not perceive a schism within the government. A lot of people think that the government is a whole entity, that you look at it and it has the basic, the red party, the blue party, and the independents, those independently wealthy who run on their own ticket, and what that is. And so people don't, the majority of this nation actually, it's people who hang out on channels like this or hang out on the conspiracy channels or the prepper channels. It's that very small contingent within a large mass. I will always keep